Hello, 7th and 8th grade. It's Mr. Pedigo here. Hope you guys are having a lovely day. And it's the last week of classes. Get ready. We're spending Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday all I'm just studying for our final exam, which is going to be on Friday, okay? So the exam is different from quizzes in that it covers a lot more ground. So the point of today's video and the videos to come is basically to help you figure out what to study when you're going through all these pages. I'm starting my studies on page 692. I'm going to go through and just tell you could jot down as notes what to focus on in your studying. I'm not telling you what's on the quiz, but I'm telling you this is what you should pay attention to, wink, wink. Okay. 692. The first thing that I think you should pay attention to is America's involvement in Cuba, and that can be found roughly around pages 700 and 701 and 02. Focus on what the Platt Amendment was. Focus also on what the Teller Amendment was. Remember the Maine, all that stuff leading up to involvement in Cuba. Okay? So that's important. The next thing to focus on is another part of American foreign policy, another development. Focus on the Roosevelt Corollary, which can be found information on it on page 707. That's going to be important in studying for the exam, understanding what that was. Policing the wrongdoings of other nations. You can find a really nice breakdown of all sorts of foreign policy stuff on page 709. Which is important. So let's keep on moving then. That's basically foreign policy stuff. We'll probably get into next World War I. So I'll tell you what to focus on in studying for World War I. Also, make sure you study about America's involvement in the development of the Panama Canal. That's very important. That'll be on the quiz. Let's talk about some terms here. I'm looking at page 721. Militarism, mobilization. What are the difference between these two? Militarism is the aggressive strengthening of armed forces, which is something we see happen in Europe right before World War I. Make sure you understand that. There is a question on that. Mobilize, to prepare military for war. You should understand that. Make sure you're familiar with who was part of the Central Powers and who was part of the Allied Powers, because it's different than how it was in World War II. So you need to make sure you understand that. Focus especially on Russia's role in World War I, how they drop out ultimately because of the Bolshevik Revolution. That's very important. The spark of the war is, the assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand. Research this as well because you will need to know it, okay? Thank you. That's important. You should know this. The only thing I would focus on post that is the Zimmerman note and the British passenger liner that was sunk in May 1915. Both of those things can be found on 726. That's important. And a lot of other stuff won't be like you should brush up on it, of course, but those are the only two things I would say really focus hard on. Zimmerman note, passenger boat, and the things mentioned earlier. Okay, so we're almost done with this video. You guys are doing great. I'm hoping this will help you really understand what's going to be on the quiz here. Allied powers, I covered that. Oh, I did mention in a mini lecture a long time ago that there was an author, one of my favorites. It is our friend J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings. He is the one who I mentioned who was a person who fought in World War I and ultimately was very moved by his involvement in there. I think I've about covered everything, guys. I covered the Roosevelt Corollary, studied that. America's involvement in Cuba, the sinking of the ship that started the Spanish-American War. Make sure you refresh yourself on that. Make sure that you understand who Archduke Francis Ferdinand was. Understand the Allied and Central Powers. Remember to review the Bull Moose Party, the Progressive Party. that Roosevelt developed, and some of the terminology we talked about in World War One. And I'll pick on what to study for the exam tomorrow next.